Radhe Radhe. Today is Saturday, 12th July 2025, and we welcome you to this Bhagavad Gita study recap video based on our session earlier today, commencing again after a gap of a couple of weeks once we all had the bliss at Family Camp 2025. Along with me, here is Mummy.
राधे राधे।
I'll bring up the screen and let's take a look at what was covered today. We had, after the usual recap quiz, chapter 11, verses 21, 22, and 23. The recap quiz, remember from a couple of weeks ago's content, is for chapter 11, verses 18, 19, and 20. So, as always, please take a look at the description for the video so that you can go to the free community portal that has all the slides you'll be seeing on the screen, and in particular, also the quiz questions and other reference material. So take that as practice and review. And with that, we shall get started with chapter 11, verse 21.
वर्स 21। अमीहि त्वां सुरसङ्घा विशन्ति केचित् भीताः प्राञ्जल्यो गृह्णन्ति स्वस्ति त्वयुक्त्वा महर्षिसिद्धसङ्घाः स्तुवन्ति त्वां स्तुतुभिः पुष्कलाभिः।
So, chapter 11, verse 21 has the catchphrase symphony in shelter. As we had discussed in class, and we see in the translation of this verse, Arjun is mentioning and describing different personalities and entities that he is seeing as entering in Sri Krishna in that cosmic form. And these are all the kinds of very, very elevated statuses. So, the celestial gods, the great sages, and the perfected beings. And what's common to all of them is that they all are, entering the Lord. They all have varying levels, of course, of reverence. Mummy actually had talked about the different categories in class as the analog and how that progression or evolution is happening. But in conclusion, of course, from Arjun's perspective, he is seeing that, in general, there is that musical content. Musical here in terms of devotion, in terms of bhakti. So auspicious hymns and profuse prayers. Therefore, they are also, of course, all seeking shelter of the Lord in the Lord. And that is that symphony in shelter. What is happening in the commentary is Swamiji tells us that this is the Kal Roop of Sri Krishna. We talked about in class how that is, of course, a very, very important element and it keeps on going. Time. Remember the small homework exercise? Please do go back to chapter 10 and locate, pun not intended, but locate how many times Sri Krishna says that he is time. Find those verses, find the context. At least in one of them, there's an important word that is in the connection of time that Sri Krishna says. He says, amongst a certain class of things, I won't give the answer, he says that he is time. That very important word is something we should store in our notes because it helps explain the context here and for future verses as well. So, with all that time, there's that mighty onslaught all around it. It consumes everything, which is why Swamiji says it is all devouring time. So, we'll see in later verses other personalities or entities also entering or visible in the Lord's cosmic form. It'll be a little more obvious that they should or why they are there. But here, these ones, these elevated beings, are also there. Nobody escapes from the laws, the power of time, and from God's dominion. But again, if there is bhakti, there is devotion and praise, then there is that symphony in shelter. As we saw in class, there is the flyer that's trying to represent that again, only with material, limitations. We have this symphony, the musical notes. You can imagine all the different celestial gods, sages, etc. They are entering, that's the universe entering into what further seems like the universe as well. But that is really that entire cosmic form of the Lord. Universes and universes within that greatest of all the universes, that is the Supreme Lord Himself. We shall next look at chapter 11, verse 22.
रुद्रादित्या वसवो ये च साध्या विश्वेश्विनौ मरुतश्चोष्मपाश्च गन्धर्वयक्षासुरसिद्धसङ्घा वीक्षन्ते त्वां विस्मिताश्चैव सर्वे।
So, chapter 11, verse 22, the catchphrase is worlds in wonder, because there is a whole list that Arjun mentions or enumerates of different kinds of, again, entities, personalities, people that are from across different planes, different worlds. They're all in wonder as they are getting to be in the Lord's cosmic form and also behold that form, of course. So, worlds in wonder, who does that consist of? As you said, academic interest primarily, it's a short, paragraph of commentary, but that list is many such groups that we have seen before. Rudras, 11 of them, form of Lord Shiv. Adit, or the storm gods as we often hear about them. Adityas, the solar deities, 12 of them. Vasus, 8, often connected with the elements and especially fire and light. Or as we saw, the ones in the material earthly context, they were cursed. The eighth one, the great Bhishma Pitamaha. Sadhyas, minor deities. Vishvadevas, Vishwa, world, Deva, right? So the whole sort of collection of these major deities, the world of deities. Ashwini Kumars, the two twin physicians. Maruts, 49 wind gods, ancestors, of course. Gandharvas, celestial musicians. Yakshas, those spirits, often kind, benevolent, sometimes, of course, a little mischievous. Asuras, we know, demons, and Siddhas, these are the perfected beings. They have such noble qualities and levels of enlightenment that they are called Siddhas. They're all these people, as Arjun says, are beholding Sri Krishna in wonder. As Mummy had explained, Swamiji says in the commentary, they all get their power from the Lord. They discharge their respective duties. Therefore, out of that respect and reverence to Sri Krishna and his laws of creation. Mummy had explained they're all here for different reasons. People worship different kinds, there are different purposes. But of course, everything goes back to the source. They all are also in the Supreme Lord. Side note, Siddhas, many of you may know, of course, the connection with Siddhis. We've heard this often. Of course, you might recognize in the Hanuman Chalisa. Ashta Siddhi Navanidhi ke dhata, Asabar Deen Janaki Mata. So Janki Mata, Sita ji is mentioned there, and Hanuman as being bestowed with those Ashta, 8 siddhis, those 8 types of perfections, and the Navanidhis, the 9 treasures. Amongst those perfections, for instance, the ability to be as large as small as he likes, and so on. So you may recognize that over there. Finally, let us take a look at chapter 11, verse 23.
रूपं महत्ते बहुवक्त्रनेत्रं महाबाहो बहुबाहुरूपादं बहूदरं बहुदंष्ट्राकरालं दृष्ट्वा लोकाः प्रव्यथितास्तथाहम्.
Chapter 11, verse 23 has a simple catchphrase, truly terrified. If it wasn't enough so far, as we've seen in some of the prior verses and the recap quiz questions, so if it wasn't enough to appreciate that, yes, there is trembling, there is fear, here Arjun adds to that with the description in the shloka. And in fact, he is not alone. Everyone also is truly terrified. The 3 worlds tremble in fear, all the entities, those that are getting to behold that view and those who are in that view as part of that cosmic form, they're all terrified. Sri Krishna, again in this verse, we mentioned he has repeated the use or the saying of mouths, eyes, arms, etc., faces, and so on, terrifying teeth. He likely mentioned teeth in future verses as well. So these come up regularly. Again, all this is, remember, Arjun in one or more states of those Ashtabhavs, right? So those are those 8 different bhavs, sentiments, reactions, or responses of different states, perhaps that Arjun has encountered or is encountering or facing. And with that, there is, of course, the element of excitement. There's also the element of fear, maybe even being stunned, shocked, or frozen in some sense. All that is something that he now recognizes and says also that he is not alone in experiencing that. So Swamiji quotes from the Shvetashvatar Upanishad and the Kathopanishad. We've seen this before, maybe a few months ago. The Shanguli, the Shangulam. God is all pervading. He's everywhere. And we even know he's in our hearts. Yet, because remember, he is perfect. He's the ultimate truth. We are not perfect. He is therefore, as they say, Analogously, he is 10 finger lengths away. Here we get to see a physical description as well in the scriptures. He is 10 finger lengths from the navel to the heart where he resides. And remember, the lotus of the heart is what is described. Lotus also from the navel, that is where Brahma also emanated. He was born. So all these different connections, of course, keep coming up in the different scriptures and the shlokas or verses. The takeaway everywhere is, of course, God is all pervading, God is supreme. Anything that happens is because of the grace and power of God. And therefore, there is this element of being fearful, being terrified, with that appreciation, with that respect for God's position. Therefore, even Indra, even Yamraj, they all operate with that fear or trembling. So the catchphrase again is truly terrified. Yet remember, as we had also said in class, something to note is remember the two-way process as well. Indra, for instance, here it says, because of the fear of God, Indra causes the rain to fall. If you remember the Govardhan Leela on the Govardhan mountain on Sri Krishna's left hand pinky finger, 7 days, and because of the fear of God again, Indra also had to cause the rain to stop. So everything that's happening is because of the grace and power of God. Bhumi will now enlighten us with Sanskrit important words and phrases and takeaways as well from these three verses.
Thank you, Gagan. So let's look at the word pranjalayo. Pranjalayo means with folded hands. So what was happening earlier, previously in the verses, Arjun was beginning to see the cosmic form. Now here in this verse, he is seeing it in great detail. Earlier, he was saying that all the three worlds are trembling in fear, seeing God's terrible form. So here he sees something very amazing. So, what is happening in this heavenly world? The deities, celestial gods, they were all arising out of Lord's cosmic form and then dissolving back into it. So, this looked like, the waves in the ocean, how they are there, and then the next minute they are all dissolving in the ocean. So, that is why the Vishanti word is being used, that they were all entering into God's cosmic form. And also, we come to know here the great detail what Arjun is seeing, that there are different kinds of people with regards to their spiritual awareness. First, those who are completely engrossed in the material world of names and forms. So they have very little or no awareness of the unity of things or of the presence of God in everything because they are entangled with their senses. Then second form is the second category is those of seekers who have recognized God's presence and are working hard to turn themselves towards the Supreme Lord. And then there are those very rare ones, very rare few, who have transcended all names and forms and who have realized the absolute truth. So Arjun saw all these people, the ignorant, the seekers, and the realized souls. Hmm? Ignorant and seekers, they were dissolving into God. Of course, they were also with folded hands. The seekers were with folded hands, pranjalyo. And the realized saints were singing the hymns, extolling the God or glorifying the God with the um, hymns and prayers. That is what was happening. From the verse number 22, let's look at the word vismitaha. Vismitaha means in wonder. What in wonder? All the different categories of deities. Rudras, Adityas, Vasus, Sadhyas, Vishwadevas, Ashwani Kumars, Maruts, ancestors, Gandharvas, Yakshas, Asuras, and Siddhas. They were all beholding that supreme cosmic form in wonder. Okay, because these are all the energies of God only in different forms, and they are doing the duties of supporting the universe. But everything is being handled from that powerhouse, that giver of energy, that supreme lord. And these all deities are who have the capabilities due to the supreme lord only to grant certain boons to people. And people who go through the Vedic rituals, they are the ones worshipping these deities. But these deities were also beholding that cosmic form in wonder, because they get all their energy from the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. And the third word is pravyathitam, from verse number 23. Pravyathitam means terror stricken. So, what happened? The gods, when Krishna showed his cosmic form to Arjun through the divine vision granted to him, and Arjun is seeing that many mouths, eyes, arms, thighs, legs, stomachs, and his terrifying teeth, you know, and he sees all the world is terror stricken, and so was Arjun. So Swamiji has given, he has quoted from Shvetashvara Upanishad and Kathopanishad, and those Upanishads are also saying the same thing. So let's see what are these verses. The one from Shvetashvatar Upanishad, it goes like this. सहस्रशीर्ष पुरुषः सहस्रक्ष सहस्रपात् स भूमिं विश्वतो वृत्वा अत्यतिष्ठ ददांशकुलम्. So basically, it means the same thing, that the Supreme Entity has thousands of heads, thousands of eyes, and thousands of feet. He is the one pervading this whole universe, and yet He resides in our hearts, just 10 fingers away from the navel, the Shangulam. So He stays in our heart. And those who are beholding and those who are being beheld, the terrified and the terrifying, they are all within the universal form of the Lord. And so, same Kathopanishad also states the same thing. It says, Bhayadasyagnistapati Bhayatapati Suryayah भयाद् इन्द्रश्च वायुश्च मृत्युर्धावति panchama. So it is from the fear of God that fire burns and sun shines. So everything in this universe works on the laws which have been placed by God, the rules which have been placed by God. Every deity, every energy of the universe, it follows those rules. Even the god of death, Yamraj, also trembles before him. So basically, this is what Arjun is seeing, that the Lord's cosmic form is so huge, it has no beginning, no middle, no end, and everything is covered with that form. Everything is emanating from him, and everything is going back into him. Hutash emanating from him, and Vishanti entering back into him. That is what Arjun is really seeing, because God has granted him the divine vision, and this is all written in our Upanishads, scriptures. They are all saying that this whole world, all the entities, all the deities, they get their energy from that great powerhouse, the Supreme Lord. Over to you, Gagan.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mummy. And I like that sort of connection with the contrast, right? So emanating from and also going back into, dissolving into. So a reminder, of course, of that entire process of creation, maintenance, and dissolution. So yeah, everyone, please keep all that those concepts in mind and practice, review the material. We shall meet next week. That'll be Saturday, 19th July, 2025, Same 8 a.m. Central Time in the US, which is 6:30 p.m. in India. We'll start off with our recap quiz on these three verses and then get into new content. Thank you so much. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.